Stuck between a libertarian and a Republican. Welcome to Publitarian Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Ronald Johnson, Publitarian, coming at you again with another episode of Publitarian Podcast. And we are up to episode number 44, and I'm going to call this episode News of the Day, I do believe, because there's not going to be any central theme to this one. There's just been a lot of news stacking up that I haven't been able to get to because of all my wonderful guests that I've been having on the show. So I'm going to blow through some of these and give my own unique Tier 1 podcaster perspective on it. And then we will go from there. So first up in our news of the day, first things first, we check on the beer fridge. The beer fridge is happy. I've got a beer from said beer fridge. And let us go. First thing I'm going to talk about is Candace Owens. Candace Owens appeared before Congress. And I'm sure everybody knows who Candace Owens is. Just in case you don't, she's a conservative activist, one of the founders of the Blexit movement. That'd be the black people escaping what she would call the Democrat plantation. And she testified before Congress today, and she was talking about the broadening of the term white nationalism and how these tech companies and platforms such as Facebook are starting to censor people by broadening the definition of white nationalism and hate speech. And it's no surprise to anyone that listens to this podcast that that's been happening. And Ted Lieu, one of the idiot congressmen out there in California, tried to get her in a gotcha moment, failed miserably. But he was like, I'm going to let Candace Ward speak for herself. And he played this recording of her supposedly praising Hitler. Obviously, she wasn't. She was talking about the difference between globalism and nationalism. And she was talking about if Hitler was doing things only for Germany and trying to make Germany great, that probably would have been okay. And if you take that snippet of what she said just in that context, it sounds like she's praising Hitler. But if you listen to the whole thing of what she was talking about, she was calling him a murderous psychopath, and she was just talking about comparing him with the differences between nationalism and globalism, and actually saying that Hitler was a globalist, not a nationalist. And of course, she was taken out of context, and she did get a chance to rebut, but all of the media hacks are already doing their due diligence, such as Mother Jones and the Daily Beast and all the liberal news outlets out there. Of course, giving Ted Lieu a win in lieu of his own stupidity. So that's that. Candace Owens, love Candace Owens. She's actually got her own podcast now. Here I go plugging somebody else's podcast, uniquely entitled The Candace Owens Show. And that airs on Sundays. Well, it releases on Sundays. And she's had a bunch of good guests on the show. She's had Roseanne on the show. She's had actually the leader of Black Lives Matter on the show, which I thought was pretty ballsy. They had a decent conversation. And she's not afraid to walk into the fire. That's why she's such a threat to the left, because she is a strong minority female that doesn't play the identity politics. And one of her things that she always says is be a victor, not a victim. And the left can't have that. They have to squash that down at all costs. So I'll keep you updated when I know more. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll forget about it and we'll move on to the next topic. So anyway, that's Candace Owens. Also, we have a UK stabbing update, because there seems to be a lot of them. A shout out to CRL News for this piece. They brought to my attention about the Clapham Common stabbing. That was the guy that was killed outside the tube station in the UK. That was from March 29th. But there have been 22 stabbings in just this capital this year alone. Then you also had the knives that were stolen from the knife surrender bin. It's just, you can't make this stuff up, folks. The UK, oh, guns bad, guns very bad, orange man bad, guns bad. And then terrorists start using knives, stab. Oh, knives bad. So they start putting out these bins for people to surrender their evil assault knives. And then the bin gets stolen. That happened earlier this week. It's a freaking clown show what's going on in the world, I swear. It's just, I'm going back to my episode of where I'm hearing circus music in my head. It's so ridiculous. If you take the weapon away, bad guys will find another way. And then you left the good guys with no weapon. Way to go, Britain. Really smart. Anyway, shout out to CRL News for that. You can find them on Instagram as well, CRL News. And they talked to a guy over there named David Vance, and he says it's pretty much a common occurrence. Also, in meme war news, because that is near and dear to my heart, of course, we all like our good meme wars. This is about a week-old story, but it's great. It's from the Daily Caller. Senator Mike Lee uses picture of Reagan riding a velociraptor while firing a gun to argue against Green New Deal. Republican Utah Senator Mike Lee delivered a speech on the Senate floor arguing against the Green New Deal. Lee displayed a picture of President Ronald Reagan firing a machine gun while riding on the back of a dinosaur to explain how unrealistic the Green New Deal is to solving climate change. Lee mocked the Green New Deal's proposal to eliminate airplanes by arguing Americans would need to ride Tauntauns and Aquaman's 20-foot seahorse to fly to Alaska and Hawaii. And it doesn't do it justice on audio, so you guys really just need to go look this up. It's like I said, it's from the Daily Caller. Senator Mike Lee using memes to destroy the Green New Deal, and it's freaking hilarious. The pictures, he really does have Aquaman on a seahorse and Luke on a Tauntaun. For those of you who don't know what a Tauntaun is, it's from Star Wars. It's the two-legged beast that they rode in Hoth on the snow planet. And they sort of made it sound like that. And Reagan on the Velociraptor, freaking amazing. I mean, any Republican floor speech that they start with, giving any kind of opening statements, I think they should just bring out Reagan on the Velociraptor, just plop it down there on the old tripod and let it speak for itself while they're giving the speech. Anyway, it's freaking hilarious. Speaking of Green New Deal and AOC.
This is what organizing looks like. This is what building power looks like. This is what changing the country looks like. It's when we choose to show up and occupy the room and talk about the things that matter most, talking about our future. You know, Reverend, you bring up a funny anecdote, and I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with working retail, folding clothes for other people to buy. There is nothing wrong with preparing the food that your neighbors will eat. There is nothing wrong with driving the buses that take your family to work.
This is what pandering looks like. This is what rehearsing in front of a mirror to get an accent down so I can pander looks like. This is me not really being raised in the Bronx, what this looks like. How insulting to African Americans you are, AOC. Seriously. How frickin' insulting. So, cringeworthy AOC, but thank you for continuing to provide fodder for our side of the aisle. It's frickin' awesome. This frickin' chick. Okay, it's been like 4 episodes now. I'm not gonna dwell on the AOC. But oof, man. Girl, come on. Who told you that was going to be... What handler told you that was going to be a good idea? Or is that the problem? You've pissed off the Democrat establishment so much that you don't have a handler and you're just out there on your own. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, freaking AOC dumpster fire. Since I'm running through the news of the day and also giving shout-outs, I would also like to give a shout-out to the Trump War Room. It's the new Twitter hashtag for the Trump 2020 campaign. Don Jr. tweeted about it. Go find it on Twitter if you're on there. The Trump War Room. Good account to follow for the 2020 election and strategies and updates. And this next story I've had in my hopper for almost a month, and I haven't been able to get to it, so I'd like to just address it briefly, if I may, and I can, because it's my podcast. A lot of Star Wars references today. This is what pandering to Star Wars nerds looks like. Although I did just change my mind on a story that I was going to share. It has been sitting in the hopper for a while, but I'm going to save that for the next episode. So I'm going to tease that next episode coming up. I'm going to have an upcoming episode called The Bigger Problem. And I'm going to address the unelected bureaucrats that are all throughout our country, you know what? I'm going to deal with the voter fraud then as well. Because I'm one of the few podcasters out there that are talking about voter fraud. And everybody's like, oh, shucks, about the 2018 elections. Oh, well, we just need to try better next time. No, there's actual real voter fraud going on, and it needs to be addressed. And I hope that this current administration does something about it. Time will tell. But I'm going to talk about that on the next episode. Because if I dive into it on this episode, I'm going to go over my cherished 20-minute mark for sure. How about some quick thoughts about liberalism while I'm running out the clock? Liberalism is a lot like modern-day Western medicine. The cure is a lot of the times worse than the disease. Western medicine very much often treats symptoms instead of addressing the real problem. Yeah, that's a deep one for you. Also a quick one that I will leave you with. Income inequality and charitable giving statistics. Ooh, that sounds like a fun ride, doesn't it? From MP Trust. Actual statistics on individual and family philanthropy. Because we're always told that we don't give and we need this benevolent force that is government, which isn't really benevolent, that needs to step in and allocate our funds because we won't give it. So here are some statistics for you. Americans gave $410.02 billion in 2017. This reflects a 5.2 increase from 2016. Remember when 2016 happened and the apocalypse happened and Donald Trump was elected and everything went to hell? Well, since 2017, charitable giving has gone up. Corporate giving in 2017 increased to $20.77 billion, an 8-point increase from 2016. Foundation giving in 2017 increased to $66.9 billion, a 6% increase from 2016. In 2017, the largest source of charitable giving came from individuals. Do you hear that? Individuals. At $286.65 billion, or 70% of total giving, followed by foundations, bequests, and corporations. This is all 2017 sources because this is the latest information that MP Trust has given out. So, as you can see, human beings, when given free market capitalism and the ability to do with their money what they please, they tend to give more than when government oppresses them under their heavy-weighted boot. So just something else for you to think about. It was just quick news of the day, stuff that I wanted to get to today, and a couple of those stories that have just been sitting in my hopper forever. But that other one that I teased, I'm just going to save for another episode that I have coming up. So anyway, that will do it for me for this episode of Publitarian Podcast. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me at Publitarian on Instagram, or on Publitarian on any of the social medias. Or you can find me at publitarian@gmail.com or thepublitarian@gmail.com. And that will do it for me this week at Publitarian Podcast. This is Ronald Johnson. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Publitarian Podcast. Copyright 2019.